I think we're live. Oh yeah, we are live.
Hello, cruel world.
Rive with.
That's a great intro, considering our outros.
Yeah, hello, cruel world. Okay.
Dead air. Dead air. Are you talking, Mike?
I think he is.
Okay, you keep muting.
No, I was coughing. I was
Oh,
coughing.
okay.
Oh,
I expected you to fill in for me. So.
Oh, well, that's how I filled in by pointing out the dead air, which is so
Yeah,
professional.
Okay, you're not supposed to admit to it, Scott. You're supposed to fix it. You're not just supposed to say, "Oh, we have this issue." No, you're supposed to fix the issue. I don't know what the hell I pay this guy for, Brendan. I don't know.
Oh, I guess I better shape up or I'll lose my Mercedes.
Yeah, he's so highly paid. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so I remember we were talking about something about, it seemed like you had a new idea about creationists and talking to them. But before we get to that, have you been on Saul's channel anymore?
He and I did one a few weeks ago, and I think
Really?
I may have been negligent in posting it. It was our best one yet, but because we used a new way of recording it, and I think he posted it to his. He really liked it.
Okay.
But we only get together like once a month or something like that.
Did he? Is that the one where he basically did his pitch, like for protein orchards and all that?
He didn't use the phrase protein orchards. We talked a lot about the specifics of how, okay, I can do this. It's been a long time and I haven't thought about this in a single moment since then. How DNA knows which genes to send out of the nucleus, I think.
Oh, okay. Localization signals.
Yeah. Which was really fun. I had no idea about all of that. And really, like, part of my, I don't know, I've had this problem with learning genetics for a long time because I feel like it's taught both in this like very simple sort of Mendelian abstract way. And then we also talk about all of this really complicated crap that's going on inside of a cell, and they're not connected to each other. And it's just the Bermuda Triangle for me of trying to understand something. And in talking with him about it, it was really helpful for me to really get square on what was going on. This is one of those situations where, as a teacher, I find it very useful to use a controversy, even if it's an old controversy that the community has actually settled, like we have with most things in evolution. But it's still really pedagogically useful to use a controversy to get us to think critically. But what is actually what is going on here?
Yeah.
So it was great.
Yeah, I would love to just sit down and spend an hour with you privately or publicly and explain all of that stuff that's going on with the DNA in the cell. Because I think I have a real simple mind, and I think I can say it in a simple way that, isn't going to be so, and those localization signals that he was talking about, there are remnants of those things in prokaryotes before there was any nucleus.
Wow.
And we have there's a whole background to that, how those nuclear localization signals started working and how they work.
I'd be interested in that. Yeah, I'd be very interested in that. One thing that I regretted that I didn't mention on his on that one, which I will in the future, Sal, if you're watching, remind me to talk about this, is that he had wanted me to give my critique of a video, a very small portion of a video that he'd posted where he was working with a college undergraduate in explaining some of these things. And from the clip that he gave me, one of the things that she said very near the end of it was, because he asked, I forget the question that he asked exactly, and I don't want to misquote him, but her answer was something like, I feel like I understand this right now, and I feel like this means that these must have been intelligently designed, because I can't think of a single way that these could have arisen naturally. And I feel like, that is actually a very well-known, and I'll admit, very hard to spot when you're doing it. Fallacy, cognitive bias, probably more of a cognitive bias, where I can't imagine anything this could be, so I'm going to go to my pet theory. You see it when people say, you know, that these UFOs are alien spaceships because they really can't think of any other idea. And I can't either, but that doesn't mean it's your own pet theory. People do it with Bigfoot, people do it with sea monsters, just like from a teaching perspective, we need to be very careful. Like one of the things of scientific reasoning that we need to be teaching people is that when they feel like it's impossible for something to happen naturally, that's a great moment to pause and wonder, like, what the heck is happening? Because maybe the answer is that God did it. I will take a strong stance against people on our side who sometimes will say, no, science can't consider claims of the miraculous. Science has this methodological naturalism. I think that's bullshit. I don't try to swear on tape, but I think it's bullshit. I think it is terrible. I think it's actually wrong. And I think it is the stupidest thing that we could do, because it hands to our opponents this weapon they can use against us, where they can say that people on our side are close-minded toward their narrative. And it is true in the case of many people on our side. I feel like you can always consider the possibility that maybe God did it. Maybe it's aliens. Maybe it's Bigfoot. And actual, like, the life of the mind demands that you keep all possibilities in contention. But also you don't collapse all of the other possibilities and go to the God or to the aliens or to the Bigfoot before you have made sure that you were excluding every other possibility that is in contention. And that's not special about God or Bigfoot or aliens. It's just true of literally every possibility. Okay, sorry. I wasn't planning to get on that rant.
But first of all, I want to mention methodological naturalism. That is a standard or technique in which you do laboratory work, in which you do basically evidence-based science, and that's just the idea that we are going to first look for a natural mechanism, and we are going to try our damnedest to find a natural mechanism before we rule that out, right? But I mean, as far as, miracles happening, I'm very open to that. I'm even, open to the idea that the entire world was created last Thursday, for instance. And I would like to know how I could disprove that. And I haven't found a way yet, but but anyway, and if it was, and it disappears next Wednesday, then we're going to have to do this over and over for infinity.
Oh man, the Groundhog Day scenario.
Groundhog, right. Anyway, but I mean, and I'm being a little facetious there, but the idea of a God or a miracle is something that I have never ruled out. And when I look at, I had an interesting experience. I have a philodendron that's, I think it's about 40 or 50 years old.
Wow.
And a long time ago, I was looking at those leaves, and I was like, how in the fuck do those leaves know to form the shape that they form? And then I have other house plants, right? And so this was like, I don't know how this could happen naturally, right? So one of the things I did even back then is I learned enough about it to get an idea. But then since then, starting in about 2000, I started actually understanding how that happens. And the thing is, but back at that point, I didn't even know how a tree grew, to tell you the truth. I mean, who does, right?
I was about to say, I'm not sure. Only God.
How does it know?
Only God can make a tree.
Yeah. Anyway, and so I mean, that is just such a weak way of thinking, I think, to, and of course, everybody believes that trees come from acorns naturally. Nobody believes that God turns it into a tree, right? But we don't know how that happens. The average person does not know anything about that. And that is something I think you got to teach the kids. Because it ain't that hard.
I caught my oldest grandson the other day dissecting an apple seed. He was pinching it, trying to see what was inside it. And so we pulled up a chart of what the apple seed looks like It was the coolest thing in
Awesome.
the world.
Oh, there's babies inside of there. There are literal babies inside of there.
little
It's so
babies.
weird.
Little tiny apples, little tiny microscopically small apples that grow into big ones.
What's that word? The cotyledon or something like that. It's the
Cotyledon,
first
yeah.
leaf. Yeah, it's the first leaf. And it actually,
Yeah,
the baby one is a leaf. It's a tiny little
It's in
leaf
there.
up there. It's so
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Do you guys know the deal about how what pollen actually is?
What it actually is?
Yeah. So like when
Okay.
when you're in the summer, if you're allergic to pollen, you notice it. If you're not allergic to pollen,
Yeah.
you're still snorting it up your nose and
Right.
prodigious quantity.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the answer that everybody gives is sperm, right?
Yeah.
It ain't sperm.
Do
Do you guys know about this?
No.
Hot takes on spring.
It's no, it's actually stranger than snorting plant sperm. What it actually is that all plants, I don't know if algae is included in this, and I don't know if moss is included in this, but I know that ferns on up are included in this. They have this bizarre thing where we have multiple generations as animals. We have multiple generations. And the second generation, looks basically the same as the first generation. The third generation looks basically the same as the second and the first generation. Not so with plants. With plants, they go the generation that we think about when we think about plants, which is trees and whatever.
Yeah.
And then the next generation is tiny. And then the next generation is back to being trees and whatnot.
Okay.
What sperm is actually tiny little second generation trees, full organisms that have their own DNA, and then they go into the parts of the flower. I can never remember the parts of the flower, but the vagina of the flower, essentially, where at the bottom of that pistil, there's the ovule. The ovule is not just some cell of the flower or of the tree or whatever. The ovule is a separate generation of plants that is the tiny version of them. And there she and the pollen have sex together. And then they make the seed, and the seed is the baby that will grow into the next tree. Every tree's mom and dad was like this big. True fact.
Wow. I'll have to look into that. That's not the way I looked at it. Anyway, cool. Thank you.
Break some categories. I'm sorry. We have limited time, and we want to talk about creationism.
Okay.
So I want to talk about what did you say that the thing that you wanted to talk about was?
We had talked before about that you had some way to talk to creationists, right? And I've been thinking I have this real problem understanding how they think.
Yeah.
And I've come to some things in the last few months that have helped me to, I think, understand how they think. And they first and foremost believe in the Bible and God. And that's sort of an overriding thing with them. Mm-hmm. And they interpret everything in that way. And for me, I first and foremost am a hard naturalist. And so every time I run into something like morality, I will put everything into that frame the same way that they do, with the Bible and with, God. So I do, the same thing. And they call that a worldview. Mm-hmm. But I understand that when it comes to evolution, none of that is necessary for me to study evolution, because I can believe that God created the earth, that God backed up a starship and dumped a spaceship load of eukaryotes into the ocean, and then evolution proceeded from there, right? Mm-hmm. Or I can believe that God created the common ancestor between chimps and humans, and that's where it started. Mm-hmm. But either way, I'm studying evolution all the way down, right? I'm just picking a point. Now that's what the scientist does, right? Scientists are not narrow-minded. They are maybe purposefully narrowing their range so that they can figure out what natural causes there are. and and if we found one that could not naturally be caused, there would be a tremendous ripple in the universe of science, and everybody would start to get on board with that if we proved that something was not naturally possible. And that's what we have to do, or that's what they have to do, basically. Yeah. And they have not done anywhere near that yet. But they would have to prove that carbon compounds can't get any more complex than two atoms unless there is life. That the only way for that to happen is with life, right?
Say that last part again, about carbon compounds.
That carbon couldn't become any more complex than like carbon dioxide or cyanide.
Sure.
Excuse me a second. Gotta cough up a hairball. I got cats. Anyway, I got a lot of cats. When I vacuum, my vacuum fills up in 5 minutes with cat hair. You can't even see it on the floor, but it's there.
They used to say that cats take away your baby's breath or something.
Yeah, they did that. Right.
But actually, they deposit fur balls into old men's.
Right, they cover fur. They cover them with fur.
Look at an X-ray of my chest, and it's like up to here in cat hair.
Now I totally lost my train of thought.
Oh, I asked you about this unimportant detail about
you said carbon life.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What if we found out that it was impossible physically for carbon to form an atom that was any more complex than one or two carbon atoms, right?
Sure.
That methane and none of that stuff could methane could form, but no way could ethane form. And we found out that was physically impossible.
Yeah.
Well, if we found that would falsify
I have my methane.
You get your methane
molecule right there. Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, that would really be something that we would discover and that we could discover, right? But we find very complex compounds in asteroids.
I mean, I think we found all of the nucleic acids now or something like that.
Yeah, all of them so far. Yeah, for a while they found 2 of them and they didn't think the other 2 were possible. And then, oh no, we found them too. And, so all that's possible. But the creationists need to prove that it is impossible for evolution to have happened. That's what they need to prove. Anyway, you go ahead and tell me what you think.
I think that this is why I don't know, still am so excited for the founding dream of intelligent design, that it would actually be a cohort of people who are looking into these situations, trying to prove that these could not have arisen naturally, and to known natural processes, I guess we'd have to say. And you get the bacteria flagella and things like that. And I am so totally not just open to being convinced by that, but like I have it here.
Okay, Brandon. Speaking of flagella, have you been watching Stated Clearly's series on the evolution of flagella?
So I haven't finished it yet, but my God, it's so
just
good.
want to make sure you knew about it.
It's so good. That guy is amazing. Those videos are
amazing.
So great. Oh yeah, thank you. You remind me that I actually need to watch the rest.
Brandon, put that book up to the camera a little bit closer and closer. Okay.
If I go any closer, it won't be in
who
focus.
wrote that?
Casey Luskin, who's the one of the heads of the Discovery Institute.
The ethical challenge, Casey Luskin.
He is so bad.
I love that man. I like him a lot.
Really?
I only had one meeting with him, but I found him I don't know, kind and nice and thoughtful. This is not me saying that that I have any strong agreements with, well, obviously with the conclusions that he reaches, but also that like I'm not saying that he hasn't done some things online that I would find facepalm worthy or something like that if I looked into them. I haven't looked into them. I don't. When I see videos about Casey Luskin on my YouTube feed, they're always done by people who are being very mean to him. And I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve that. I don't know, right? I'm throwing myself behind the veil of ignorance here. I will just
mean to his ideas. mean to his ideas. The ideas that he puts forth are so bad that that's what I would be mean about, not about the man personally.
Can I say the one that I have heard about that I don't know if he said it or not, but it was this new thing that came in the intelligent design community that found that actually, I'm putting this in air quotes, humans and chimpanzees only share 95% of our DNA rather than
Right,
the 0.5%.
No, they're saying 88%.
Okay,
88.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not saying anything new. There's just a different way of measuring this, which to be clear, I don't really understand because I'm new to genetics.
You basically have to, nowadays, because of the different ways and the number of genomes they've sequenced, you have to identify the method of lining up the genes or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you declare your method and then compare species using that method side by side, you'll see that proportionally humans and chimpanzees are still the closest in relation, and what are the ones? The mouse and the rat are still further apart than humans and chimpanzees are close together.
I know that.
So Brandon, if you and I took our DNA and lined it up nucleotide per nucleotide, from beginning to end, you and I would be like something like 0.00001% similar. If we lined it up.
Do you mean dissimilar?
Similar.
We would be very similar.
No, we would be very.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So if you use a particular method of lining it up, now if we started if you started lining it up 1-to-1, the very first time I had an insertion and you didn't, all of the future ones would not line up.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
So, I mean, it depends on how you line this up, and it depends on, and when it comes to the genome, this is also something we could have an hour-long conversation about, is what is in that genome and what each part does and how much it matters that it is the same or it is it is not, right? And that is a very deep subject also in genetics that we need to do a better job of explaining to people, because then you would understand. But I've looked at this. Oh my God, what is that?
Okay, so look, like I had this problem in my science education, which is that I understand nothing about genetics. I blame it all on Jurassic Park, which was the first adult novel that I ever read, and it put me, ahead of where other people were in understanding genetics, per my peers. And so I just rested on my laurels, and I never brushed up. I never learned anything else, and then I know nothing. I know nothing at all, and for whatever reason, it doesn't fit in my head. So I have been in this viruses class that I've just finished teaching this week. I have been teaching myself genetics, which is to say, I've actually been learning a lot from my science advisor, who has a degree in, I can never remember what it is, something at the interstice of biology and bioengineering. I think she has a bachelor's in bioengineering, and so she's been kind of running me through this. And it turns out that that viruses are this wonderful spot to start with understanding these deep mechanics, these finicky mechanics, exactly like you guys are saying, of what's going on in genes, because they're so flipping simple. Some of them are not. Yeah. And so this is the entire genome of the tobacco mosaic virus. Fits on 2 pages. You could put this in Harry Potter. If this was printed up as Harry Potter, and fit this on 2 pages of text. And then what I've highlighted there differently are the 4 different genes that it has. And then I have the specific things that these genes do. Right. Almost the entirety of it is to build a if I try to say the word, I'm going to get it wrong, so I'm not going to say it. But this little protein thing that makes that copies the RNA strands of the tobacco mosaic virus, and then gets the second one is to get the plant to open its doors to release it. And we don't really understand what the third one is, something about a positively charged particle. And the fourth one is to make the parts of the coat that the tobacco mosaic virus is the exterior is made up of. It's a really, truly very simple virus there. And this has been so useful to me to understanding what the heck it is that we are talking about in this. So
Okay.
the rest of that does not bear sharing right there. But yeah, sorry, that's me saying I think I understand a little bit of what you guys are talking about.
Okay.
Now, here,
Okay,
do
so
you know how big the human genome is? Like, do you guys like have like a go-to way of quantifying how large it is?
other than the number and having fished around in it forever, no.
So that's really important, right? That you have like this experience of fishing around in
Yeah.
it, which I haven't had at all. Mike, sorry, I always get your names backwards, guys. I'm so sorry. Scott, do you have any sense of how big it is? I know.
I'm sorry, I was looking somewhere. How big what is?
The human genome.
A sense.
It's
of
really
the
tiny,
size.
actually. You fit a bunch of them in our body. But in terms of quantity, I don't remember. All sorts of numbers get thrown about.
So
But it's
the
not as
way,
big as the onion genome.
yeah. Sometimes the ferns I think are bigger too. Yeah. There's always
16 billion for the onion. Yeah.
the numbers that are bigger than 100 don't make any sense to me. I have a hard time picturing them. So what we did to teach this lesson was to quantify this and say, okay, imagine that we were say that we were printing genomes in the Harry Potter, but like in the Harry Potter books. So you'd open the very first Harry Potter book, and instead of saying, well, whatever the first line of the Harry Potter book is, it would say GCCTGAACT, like this. So the tobacco mosaic virus, one of the simplest viruses, would take up about 2 pages. But the human genome would be the entire set of Harry Potter, all 7 books, stacked on top of each other, again and again and again. Each of those is a foot, almost exactly, actually, it turns out, in the American printing of that. So you can kind of just turn this into feet. Harry Potter books, though. 600 feet tall. The books would be stacked 600 feet tall. 600 sets of Harry Potter on top of each other. A 60-story building of tall of just the human genome, which is just like, wow, that's really big from that perspective, not from the DNA molecule perspective. Just maybe like 6 feet, 10 feet tall.
And that would be just one DNA in one cell of the human body, and
in every cell, right?
Every cell. Talk about redundancy. If you want to make sure you never lost your favorite, for some reason, I like to lug around Catch-22 with me all the time to read when, in those odd moments when, what if I never wanted to lose it? What if I had a 600-foot tall copy of Catch-22, but I had to have one for each cell in my body, just so I never ran out of my favorite book.
Yeah,
that would be a lot.
Who knows about this guy that he does these amazing videos where he zooms through the universe and he gives you a sense of the size of things by zooming from one level to the other. And he does animations, and I'm asking Epic Spaceman.
Oh, I don't know this.
Have you heard of this?
No, but you guys know about, there's 2 apps that do a really great job of this. One of them is called the Scale of the Universe 2. I guess there was a Scale of the Universe 1 that nobody ever talks about. And you can just, it's stupid that we use the word big to describe a blue whale, but also, the Eiffel Tower. Those are so dissimilar from each other. And we also use the word big to describe, Jupiter. Jupiter is so much bigger than those things. And then it goes into the other app for this is the Universe in a Nutshell by the good people who make my favorite YouTube channel, which is Kurzgesagt, which kind of means in a nutshell in German. But they very specifically took off of what the other guys were doing. They got their permission to do it and did an even better version of it. I think this one is like $3, and oh man, for $3, it's like the best science book you can get. It's amazing, and every one of these things you can click on and learn about what a paramecium is. I clicked on it. And clicking. Well, there you go.
I've got a book,
I remember a
a
video sort of like that started like in a football field and tried to, I think, just give the scale of the solar system. And it still had to go to great lengths to show what that scale is.
Yeah,
I've got a book by a couple of guys. It's a small paperback that does all sorts of things, like how many cells are there in a human body, how much blood volume do you have, just all of these facts. But anyway, this Epic Spaceman, I'm putting his YouTube channel out. If you don't know about this guy, Brandon, you're going to love him.
Thanks.
You're going to love these videos. He does such a good job of zooming in and out of things, and he's got a whole bunch of them. Like I made my phone's chip 2 million times bigger and flew inside. So he does videos like that.
Oh, I need to see that.
It's just incredible. And,
the thing, I actually in my science classes, I've made a really big thing on doing this. So I wrote about this in my blog, losttools.org. If you look up the shrink ray, this is actually turned into a podcast.
The shrink ray?
Yeah. So I take my students and we imagine that we have this shrink ray, and then we can shoot them with it. And then they become, if they're about 1.5 meters tall in real life, they become about 1.5 millimeters tall, which is, approximately this tall. And we get them to kind of imagine like walking around their finger or whatever. And then we go and we do that again and again. And we go down from milliworld to microworld, from microworld to nano world, from nano world to pico world. And we kind of build up this understanding in their heads of what you can expect to see if you're in micro world. So for all the viruses that we did, we said like, okay, like exactly how big would they be? Like the SARS coronavirus 2, right? Like the COVID, right? Like how big is COVID? And COVID is the size of like a soft, like a baseball, like a traditional baseball. And we talked about like, what would it feel like? Like how hard would it be? Because some viruses are as hard as rocks and other ones are gooey and slippery. And COVID is actually this weird mashup of these things where there's like beams on the inside of it. It keeps its RNA kind of spooled around these little beam things, so it doesn't get squished too much. And then, the spikes, we could talk about how you can pull the spikes off, and we got really specific about this. But like getting that actual, like, it sucks that we're the size that we are. It would suck whatever size that we were, as long as we were just one size. But we're used to seeing the world as it's made up of things that are our size, things that are small, and things that are big. But big incorporates many, 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 many orders of magnitude, and so does small. And you actually have to like get really good at imagining set worlds where these things are interacting with each other. So this is one of the big things that we do, and that I think that we can actually develop for all sorts of science education. We bring some posts about this in the near future. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Anyway, one of my links, I have a link to your channel, sciencesweird.com, or your website. Yeah. And I wanted a link to your Substack and your channel, but apparently one of my links isn't working. But anyway, I will put those links for Brandon in the description, and you should be able to search somewhere for the shrink ray and find that.
Yeah. If you go, if you just go to the blog losttools.org and look up shrink ray, that's how I found it right there. Or just Google losttools.org shrink ray, and it'll bring you right there.
Losttools.org?
Yeah. The blog is titled The Lost Tools of Learning.
Oh, okay.
No one else had actually gotten losttools.org, which I feel like.
Oh, wow. That's
amazing.
Okay. Back to creationists and how we can crack that. I mean, did you have any luck with getting Cell to see any of your side of the argument?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And how did you do that?
I think let me speak generally about this sort of thing and not specifically about this sort of thing, because I don't want to psychoanalyze a friend. Yeah, I don't
do it for you.
Sorry, say again.
I'm sorry. I said that's okay. I'll do the psychoanalyzing for you. I'm in no way a qualified psychologist or psychotherapist, but I'll still do the psychoanalyzing.
I can say that in general, Here, can I try to answer this question in a very different way by talking about the thing that I had been excited about and Mike talked with you about that I wanted to share, because I can speak more specifically for this friend because he's not known to this community. Is that okay if I do this? But then I'll take the opportunities to reflect on Sal as they come with that.
Okay.
So I have this Catholic friend who I get together with once a month, have for I think 5 years now. And every month we pick something to fight about because we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. Some things we really do. But he's, like a sort of a natural born rationalist. He's blisteringly smart. He has, among other things, he has a PhD from Yale. He's one of the most humble people that I've ever met. He's a wonderful, totally trustworthy guy. He behaved as our realtor and did us good and that too. I can just say, I love and trust this person wonderfully, but we get together and we argue about things, usually about Catholic things, because it's the thing that both of us are interested in. He's super duper Catholic. He went to seminary, ended up not becoming a priest, but went to seminary, super devout. And we lately started talking about the Shroud of Turin. And I've got to ask, do you guys know anything about this? Because it's okay if you don't.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. That's a big topic. History Valley recently, I don't know if you know that channel, it's called History Valley.
No.
If you do a search, he had a guy on there that gave his theory, and he even did some proof of concept projects to show his theory about how the Shroud of Turin was made, and it was very fascinating. And so, that's a subject. There's also our friend. He's kind of in the whole skeptic atheist network or whatever, at least that I sub to. His name's Jordan. Reason. What's
Reason
the name
to believe? No. What is Jordan's?
Reasons to Doubt is his
Reasons to Doubt, right?
He's not very active anymore, but he has done a number of exposés or topics or videos on the Shroud of Turin. But of course, I always love to make a short answer long. Yeah, we've no,
that was good. That was helpful background for this. I had never gotten into Shroud lore when I was an evangelical Christian. I thought it was crap. When I was an atheist, I thought it was crap. Now I'm an agnostic, and I never really got into it, so I decided to get into it. I think it's garbage. I think there are really terrible evidences for it.
It's horrible, yeah.
My friend is very convinced. He's like 90% convinced, and he's been in sort of this community for decade upon decade upon decade. So honestly, the fact that he's only at 90% confidence of it actually speaks very well to his ability to not get totally suckered along with something.
Yeah.
And what I found, let me say the first thing, which is the event that he and I are in the process of doing a few of, and then I'll speak to sort of his what I see, my attempt to psychoanalyze him. Okay, so we decided to really dig into this together and to do, instead of just walking around town and arguing with each other pointlessly but wonderfully, we decided to put this on as a public event. So on Wednesday we had our first of our big anti-debates. That's my new word for it. We're not using that to try to sell tickets or anything like that. Called it the Shroud Smackdown. And what we designed was this different way of organizing a public debate, where we would structure it to make the best case that we could for both sides and to help each other make those cases. So we got a really great moderator, and we began by introducing the other person, which is weird. And he said some of the nicest things about me that anyone has ever said about me in public. And I hope that I responded in kind. And then throughout the talk, while we were really trying to show where we disagree and why we're not convinced at each other. We were really going at it. We also would sacrifice our time to help each other make their points better. There was a point where I could see that he was losing the audience when he was telling sort of a story of this other Catholic artifact, a relic called the Sudarium of Oviedo. And I needed to, the Mandelian of Odessa. There we go. That one. The things that you learn about when you get really into any topic. And I realized he was losing the audience. So like I used some of my time to say, hey, everyone, how well do you feel like you understood what the Mandelian of Odessa is? And they all went, like this. And I said, okay, like, George, can you say this in one sentence? He started saying, well, like from where I stand, I think that Mary, the mother of Jesus, after he died, took no, in one sentence, just in one sentence. He says, well, I said, just in one sentence. And he said it, and then it was understandable. And then everyone got it. It's like, great. And then he, at a certain point in the debate, when I'm forgetting the exact details of this, but it was something that I've chunked in my memory as I said something that just sounded crazy. And he jumped in and said, everyone, you think that Brandon is making this up. I promise you that Brandon is not making this up. What he is saying is true, and it goes against our side. Which is just like, yes. So it was great. And after that conversation, this is my very, very long way of answering the question of how do we get creationists to help them change their minds. I had a guy come up to me who said, before this, I believed that the Shroud of Turin was authentic. And now I also believe that the Shroud of Turin is authentic. But you a lot of the things that you told me that you said are really new to me, and I'm really going to have to think about these. It's like, great. So I managed to carve out through this debate structure and the fact that I was, I'm deeply in love, heterosexual platonic love. Sorry, not okay. I love my friend. It was this big love fest on the stage here. Through those two things, I was able to get, some healthy fraction of the audience to not do the thing that people usually do in debates, where, people on this side come in, a little bit on this side, and people on this side come in a little bit on this side. And by the end of the debate, now they're really far away from each other. Most debates are actually anti-debates. Most debates actually get people to look at the same evidence and totally disagree and go farther apart, like the killing of Rene Good, right? Writ small in almost every single debate. We managed to do the opposite thing. So this is part of my hope. This is part of how we can structure debates to do this. There are I can talk about some other facts about how we did this debate, because there's one particular fact about how we did this and how I will be continuing to do this. Actually, Mike, can I just jump in and jump into my own rant and show you what this is? Because I think it's cool. Cool. Oh,
Rant away.
Rant away. Very good. Sorry, I couldn't hear him. Very good. Okay, but I can hear you.
I'm muted. Yeah, yeah. I said, but did you do a video on your channel with him?
Not on my channel, but it's on Facebook for the next 30 days. I can give you the link for it.
Yeah, I call that face fuck.
Gonna walk away from that one.
Yeah, I don't like it much. Anyway, go ahead. You can rant. Go ahead.
Someday, Mike, I'd love to be able to include these videos that you and I and Scott do together on my channel for children.
I have to be better.
One of these phrases like that are not gonna
Okay.
let me do that. So we made it really clear at the outset that we are going to be specifically measuring ourselves as to how confident we are of the authenticity of the shroud from 0 to 100. And we said right at the beginning, there are only two wrong answers of where you can be on this, and that is 0% and 100%. If you are 100% that the shroud is authentic, that means that you will privilege that over every other piece of possible evidence that God himself could come down and tell you, actually, the shroud isn't real. And you will say, screw you, God. I'm confident of this. So we did a good job of just telling people, no, you should be open-minded. You should be somewhere between here. And then we talked about how we've been structuring our arguments leading up to this together, which is that we each came up with what we thought the 3 strongest pieces of evidence were, that we both agreed are actually true pieces of evidence. So we didn't need to waste any time saying, well, yeah, like, if that was true, I think that I would agree with you, but I don't actually think that evidence is true. And then we, for each of these pieces of evidence, we would talk about how we are doing a Bayesian update in one direction or the other from that. And in the part 2 of this, which will be done not this Wednesday, but the Wednesday after, we'll actually be running through the Bayesian numbers on this. But I showed how because this could be done with like Nessie, right? So you have someone on the no side say, what is the strongest piece of evidence? And in 1987, there was Operation Deep Scan that went through the entire lock with like 20 boats, all with really good sonar, and they scanned the whole danged lake. And they found, some fish. That was all. Not a breeding population of lake monsters, just
fish.
some medium-sized fish. It's a pretty dead lake. I've been there. It's a pretty dead lake. Neat place. Beautiful. And the strongest one from the yes side is that you've had many sightings over the course of almost 100 years now.
Yeah.
And then, so now there's this whole Bayesian way of doing this where you imagine that you are you go to a universe where the Loch Ness Monster is not real. And you say, and then also a universe where the Loch Ness Monster is actually real. And you say, in that universe, would I expect to see this data? Would I expect in a universe where the Loch Ness Monster is real to have many sightings over the course of 100 years? And the answer probably is yes, I would expect to see that. Okay, great. Yeah. So then it moves our number kind of up there. But then you have to say, if I went to a universe where the Loch Ness Monster wasn't real, how likely would it be that many people would have sightings of it? And the answer to that still might be kind of high, because it turns out that lake monster sightings are very common. There's a whole Wikipedia article on lake monsters, and it's not like more lakes have them than not, but like big lakes tend to have local lake monster legends.
Right.
And I don't think anybody's actually arguing that like in, this random lake in the middle of Kansas that there actually is a monster, but you have sightings. You have sightings of them. So sightings are a very common thing. So the idea is that if you started with at 50%, which you almost certainly shouldn't do, but we could talk about how to set a base rate later. And actually with this group, we will be. Okay, if we start at 50%, then many sightings should ultimately, once you do the Bayes' theorem, put you up a little bit. But then the fact that the full scan showed nothing should bring you really, really, really far down. Not all the way to 0, because nothing should ever take you all the way to 0. But then you could repeat this by doing another positive thing here, and it can maybe bring you up here, and another thing here, maybe be a crappy argument, it's only take you down here, and then you can just keep going back and forth in this. So it's this continual dance on this. So one of the things that we did, and I think we could do this with some Young Earth Creationists friends. I am excited that I might be coming up with something that's really helpful here. I feel like we can do this. I then showed them the same sort of thing, but for how you could talk about the existence of Jesus. I wanted to do this with them because I did not want to express Bayesian reasoning, which is what this is. To use a fancy term, I didn't want to express this to them like it's a thing that's only skeptics do. It's also a thing that some mainstream scholars do to show that Jesus probably really existed. It's also the thing that famously Richard Carrier did when he published his book in 2009 on arguing that Jesus didn't exist. He explicitly did it as a series of Bayesian arguments. I disagree with him about the updates that we should make on that. But I've met him. He's a nice guy, and I'm very open to the idea that maybe the odds that Jesus didn't exist are higher than I had thought before, or whatever. But then we then we did with the shroud, but the specific arguments for the shroud don't actually matter here. My idea for this is that we can do this with young Earth creationists. We can teach Bayesian reasoning to young Earth creationists by finding friendships that people can do this over. That's my idea. What do you guys think?
Good. That is a good idea.
Of course, Bayesian logic or Bayesian reasoning is kind of a like Christians who know Greek and Hebrew. It's just like a different tool to misuse to create arguments for.
I couldn't agree with you more.
So that's the only caveat. Although I do appreciate Bayesian logic. Bayesian reasoning. I think it's a little more complex. Like doing the calculations for complex issues is easy to get bogged down in.
So I have two solutions to this, and I'm really thank you, because I didn't think I could actually get this in the weeds of this. The first I wrote about on a blog post, not on my own blog, but on the blog Astral Codex 10, which is, I don't know, one of the more important blogs on the internet. I got to do a guest post on this. So if you look up Bayes for everyone in quotes, I think you'll probably if you just Google it, you will get to me. But I explain a better way of than like these, the traditional way of writing Bayes' theorem out.
Right.
I show a visual way of doing this. This is from the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful YouTuber 3 brown 1 blue or 3 blue 1 brown. I can never actually remember which order.
Yep.
And then I make it, honestly, I think even better and slightly more intuitive here to do this. But then at the end of this, I argue that that the proper use of Bayes is not to do an apologetics move, because it is so likely to go wrong. And I say apologetics or an anti-apologetics, right? Whatever. Like you shouldn't do Bayes by yourself. Bayes is properly done when you're arguing with a friend.
Okay, got it.
Because they can call your crap on things and say, like, that doesn't make at all sense for it. And I would have, like, when doing this with my friend George, like, I would have screwed this up a bunch if I had been the only person doing this by myself. And, I write essays about this sort of thing. And the other help, though, that we have that I did not see coming is that ChatGPT and Claude are so good at doing this when you just prompt them to, like, do this for you. And I'd be happy to share the prompt that I have used in the past to get to do this, but it'll make little graphs for you, and it will even tell you when it thinks that you're making a mistake.
Oh, wow.
It'll say, I think you're double counting this actually, and so you shouldn't do this, or I think that you're actually maybe, because it's not that it just has, like this narrow expertise in Bayes. It has that plus general expertise in the topics that you were debating about.
Right.
And so my friend and I have found it so amazing to use like that as like the midwife between us. The Socrates, right? Or the Gad, I don't know, whatever. Like this sort of go between us to help us like figure out when we are doing things badly. And in many circumstances, either he or I will we'll be like very convinced like the other person is wrong or we're misusing Bayes, and then we'll say, okay, let's just like agree to look at what Grok or whatever says right now if we give it this question and explain what we're doing. And then every single time it's gone, oh yeah, both of you are wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, I find it really useful, ChatGPT. And I had an experience just recently with Claude, where I went over to Claude, who doesn't know me at all, and told Claude I was a young Earth creationist and started talking about a subject. And it did nothing but bolster my view. And finally, I told it, I said, I think you're just telling me what I want to hear. And it said, oh, you're right. And then it corrected itself. And it was pretty amazing. And I want to make sure ChatGPT knows I'm an atheist and hard naturalist, knows all my philosophy. What I want to hear, I do not want somebody that always agrees with me. But then on the other hand, I've had to iron things out with ChatGPT because it keeps misunderstanding what I'm saying. And it keeps going to sort of what the classic view is. And when I'm coming at it from a different angle,
Yeah.
I have to beat it a little bit in order to get it to understand what I'm saying. But then it all
People are like
is,
that too. People are like that too.
People are like that too. But you have to be very careful when you use AI tools to make sure you're using them properly. You have to curate them. But anyway,
Grok,
see, the problem
let's just say like Grok was telling my friend that like, yes, like you should have like a 99% probability that the Shroud of Turin is authentic because he had trained it to say yes to him.
Yeah.
One of the things that we did, actually, I should say this, when we would have ChatGPT serve as that sort of, go between us, is that we would open up a new window on Safari on a web browser, and without it knowing us at all, and then explain the situation, and then we could both much more easily trust it.
Yeah. So I'm going to need some links from you, but maybe we'll have just a minute after we go private for me to ask you for a favor. Because I like to link everything that we talk about. If you mention this code 10 or whatever, I want to be able to have links in my description for it. So we'll have all those. But now the problem I have with creationists when you talk to them is you start talking about evolution and you're talking about common ancestor with, say, a chimpanzee. Mm-hmm. And then they'll start talking about eukaryotes. And then they'll start talking about abiogenesis. And then they'll say, well, the liver could have never evolved on its own. There's no way for the liver evolved. And then I start trying to tell them in detail how the liver evolved. And then they say, oh, that's just a story. And that's just bullshit. But they keep moving me from one mark to another. And the point I want to get at, I want to find one honest creationist somewhere that will pick a point on the evolutionary timeline, right? Like if you want to pick the first multicellular animals, we're going to put a pin in that. And we're not going to talk about anything before that. Okay? We're going to talk about multicellular animals forward. And then I think you can gain ground with them. But if they're not honest enough to put a pin in the discussion of evolution, you understand what I mean by that? Okay, I could grant them that God created the eukaryotes, but God did not create multicellular animals. Evolution did that, right? And then we'd be talking about a very specific thing from the first eukaryotic single-celled animals all the way to multicellularity. Okay, and then we would have a scope for our discussion, right? I mean, I don't have to insist that God did that abiogenesis is natural in order to have a conversation about common ancestors with chimpanzees. And they keep moving me off the mark. How would you handle them?
I mean, it depends on, but it's a question about getting specific and who we're talking about here and what the modality of talking is. Like, is it a person we're talking? Is this on online forums?
Yeah, like I've had conversations with Rebecca on Bread of Life. Yeah. She is particularly bad. And of course, even worse is the presuppositionalist Jim Bob, made by Jim Bob. He is just really, I mean, you could never get him to have a normal conversation with you. But with Rebecca, there is a possibility of having a conversation with her, but I'm not entirely sure how to pin her down to the point where she stays on one topic, right? So we're just going to talk about one topic.
I mean, have you ever asked her that?
I don't know. I think I've tried in the past, but I just keep getting buzzsawed out of there. You feel like you put your hand down on a buzzsaw and you get whipped out. You know, you're going in circles before you know it. Oh, and I've had conversations with Cell on Rebecca's channel, and Cell does exactly the same thing. He'll just buzz you from one thing to another. He'll go from nuclear localization signals to his protein orchards to, you know, on and on and on.
This is not unique, of course, to young Earth creationists, right? This is
no, it isn't. No, it's everything.
for everything. It's like for almost everyone and everything. I'm a big fan of a book that has nothing to do with what we're talking about called Crucial Conversations, which I read and devoured once when I was trying to negotiate with a terrible boss who I found it impossible to have conversations with. It was ended up being like a good excuse to learn some pretty important conversational skills. But in the end, one of the things I really took from the book is that you can talk about anything. You can have any kind of conversation. Well, you can have almost any kind of conversation with almost anybody, as long as, well, I think the phrase in the book there maybe isn't so helpful for us, which is you make it safe to do so. But what I take from that is I extend that into, you can have really great conversations with almost anybody, not everybody. Maybe the Jim Bob guy that you're talking about is an exception to this. But you have to keep pausing the conversation and then stepping outside of it, going meta and saying, here's what I'm observing about this conversation. Is it possible, and before the conversation, I say, here's the kind of conversation that I want to have. Could we have a safe word or something, right? To flag if I or you go outside of that. And I like to even this is one of the things I used to when I would do when I moved to Rochester from Seattle, and just wanted to make friends and meet people. I'd go on walks with people where we would just pick one specific question and that we disagreed about, and try to get to the bottom of just that one question. And we knew that if we're walking around a lake or something, that there was going to be an end time for this, so time was limited. Oh, sorry. I'm going to read this out loud because Deconverted Man, you posted this before and I wasn't able to read it. When posing to the creationists the idea that if God is a relationship, they can learn something new about them. Thus, maybe they can learn that God used evolution work. Okay, hold on for a second.
I'm not sure if I can parse that, D-Man.
Sometimes you see...
sometimes D-Man is deep.
Sometimes you see Christian theologians talk about God as a relationship because of the Trinity, the triunity there. C.S. Lewis wrote that among the reasons that we should assume that the Trinity is maybe correct, even though it doesn't make any sense, is because you're moving upward to a different scale of reality. And it's kind of like flatland or something like that, right? Like you'd expect there'd be these weird things where, and that. So God is this sort of naturally is this relationship. I don't know. I always find sort of poetic ideas in theology to be vexing. I wanted to become a theologian.
The thing about DM's question there is he used the phrase God is relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know if he means that as a theological philosophical term, God is relationship, because I've heard actually people use that, especially about Jesus, but you can extend that to God, or if God is in a relationship with us, and that he could also have meant that. But I don't know that changes the question he's posing, that the fact that when you're in a relationship, you're learning new things about people. So maybe it's in a relationship, but a relationship with God. Okay, then can evolution be that item? One of those things that God you'll learn about God, that He used evolution. That does being in a relationship, I guess, make you open to that possibility?
Yeah.
I don't think fundamentalists are going to go there, and most creationists are fundamentalists. But
there are a lot of Christians that believe that God used the natural universe and natural laws and evolution to create everything that we have today, right? And with those people, I have hardly any disagreement, because in some ways, that is a bridge all the way around to a pure naturalist, right? And I think that's really interesting. But the people that we're dealing with are people that take Genesis too literally and they are a sect or a cult in Christianity. They are not the common Christian. I don't think the common Christian across the world, if you were to look at them, is going to deny evolution. A lot of them have never even considered it a problem at all. They just either, they're agnostic about it, and so we're dealing with a very specific group of people that are glorifying Genesis and the fall of man, and that literal story as part of their theology, and that's what we're up against more than anything, is that they cannot get their mind around a Christianity that would not have a literal Adam and Eve eating the fruit from the tree and causing the fall of man, et cetera, right?
Because it makes a more powerful story, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't. It makes a horrible story. The more powerful story is the one that basically treats the eating of the fruit as a metaphor for what happened to man when man developed a further a rational brain that allowed us to understand that our moral acts have consequences, right? All of a sudden, we had a choice about whether to do something because it felt good, or whether to say, no, I'm not going to do that because it's wrong. So, I mean, that is a powerful story.
I will happily agree that is a very powerful story, and I think it's the better story. I think it's the better way, and I think it's actually the more authentic way to read what's actually was the intention of the story in Genesis, right? I think that sort of St. Augustine story that it's just about original sin and whatnot actually is C.S. Lewis actually here would agree with us, is actually a pretty, wooden way of reading that story that actually does not seem to mesh with some of the symbolism that seems to be going on in it. But there's something about, fundamentalism is sticky in a way that, sort of a more literary minded, a more sort of psychologically minded Christianity or any kind of worldview is not. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say when I say that it's a stronger story, is that it locks together this worldview that then makes hell real and makes Jesus' substitutionary atonement on the cross more of a live option, and it means the salvation experience is more meaningful, and then it makes individual life and sacrifices more meaningful. So it kind of locks together, but I don't have a good way of talking about that.
Yeah, the reason I think it's such a weak story is it's like, mommy, why am I being punished for what Eve did, right?
Yeah,
because that just doesn't make any sense, and there's kind of a break in that.
Do you know that St. Augustine's original story of how does original sin get passed on to the next generation? Here, I should say that I've heard people that I trust in biblical studies say this, but I haven't actually really looked this up myself, is something about the friction of sex.
Okay.
That there's a heat that is caused in the friction of sex. That is how original sin.
What?
Right? It's these pre-modern beliefs, and sometimes you find these ancient people who, a lot of I think Augustine's sort of diagnosis of human nature is actually pretty great in many ways. But then, you touching on science, it's like beyond cringeworthy, and it's so awful.
Okay, I was compelled by that statement to look it up via
thank you.
Gemini.
Okay, I guess lube hadn't been invented yet.
No. We're talking serious stuff here. Augustine of Hippo believed that original sin is transmitted genetically. I don't know to what degree you can use that word genetically, through the heat or concupiscence, lustful desire of sexual intercourse. So he argued that sexual lust is punishment for Adam's disobedience. Wow. To me, that's ridiculous. Causing the uncontrollable physical passions. They're not all uncontrollable. I mean, what percent of the population actually has, sexual compulsion kind of disorders? Uncontrollable physical passions that infect all human descendants, making sex inherently sinful, except when focused solely on procreation. So that is the heat of sex, the intense physical lust accompanying sex is seen as a vicious affection and a carnal life stemming from disobedience. So,
Right.
anyway.
Just this morning, I finished the book Lower Than the Angels, A History of Sex and Christianity by the wonderful, I can't pronounce his name, it's Scottish, McCullough. It's so thick and it's so good and you don't want it to end. And he highlights that there has not been one consistent sexual ethic in Christianity or understanding of what gender is in Christianity. Right. And he talks about how there's this really, really strong anti-sex movement in Christianity from the beginning, in truth, from Paul and Jesus and the rest. But then it got really extreme for a while. And when Christians today will say, well, homosexuality is obviously wrong because it doesn't help, the species survive, doesn't help the people of God survive. Like, they could not be more wrong. They could not be more divorced from the Christian tradition when they say that, because early Christianity was so much about not having sex. That sex was this terrible thing, not universally, but some really strong strands of that. Mike, I cut you off, and I apologize. I cut you off.
Yeah, there's a reason. That is a whole big topic. This whole thing about being human and having sex intervene, that sort of thing. That's something that, as a really old man reviewing my entire life, that I am struggling with. Right. It just seems like, okay, humans are so sophisticated. We got our suit and tie on and we're all gathered together. And then all of a sudden somebody starts rubbing on each other. And it's like, it just doesn't fit, right? Yeah. With our ideal of ourselves and being sexual animals. And actually, when you look at little children, that they cannot happen unless sex happens, right? So, I mean, it's built into our substance and it's built into our psychology in such a way that we have a lot to learn about the biological roots of how much of an effect it has on our psychology, culture, everything we do. And we need to integrate that somehow a little more. But anyway, that's another topic. But okay.
I apologize that I need to go.
I know. And so did you want to summarize?
I feel like, but it's going to be the same summary that I probably gave last time that I was on. Okay. But just to reiterate, like, the thing that really drives me in this is that I feel like this is actually winnable in a way that a lot of people in our community don't think that it is. I feel like too many of us are still stuck on, let's, throw poo at the other side in the zoo. Rather than let's do the hard work of forging, meaningful relationships with people such that we trust them and they trust us to say hard things and then to stick to these conversations and keep going through them. And
every time you say that, I review your cell videos and I score you on how much you're winning with him. And so far, I think you've scored you got 1 point. I'm not sure. Anyway,
so you said that, you don't see any progress there.
No, I don't see any progress at all. Yeah.
You might be totally right.
And when you do with that one or with anyone, damn, we need to give you some kind of an award. Nobel Peace Prize is what I suggest.
I'm not up for operationalizing or for operationalizing a relationship with a friend, right? Like my goal in this is, of course, in some ways to help him see reason in the same way that I hope he can help me see some reason that I'm missing.
Yeah.
I hate that you're leaving now that we're at the end and you have, I guess, another obligation, because it kind of distracts me too that as time has gone by, young earth creationism and evangelical Christianity is so tied to MAGA with its science denial and a loathing of actual experts that's one thing that makes it seem insurmountable. So what you're having to address is not just creationism, but the whole anti-science
it's a bigger
hatred
thing.
of experts kind of mentality. which is
And we got
it's insurmountable. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying this seems to be a very great impediment to progress.
Yeah,
we have to let Brandon flee now. So anyway, we're going to close it up. Okay.
Yeah.
And give me 1 minute after we close up, Brandon.
Sure. Can I say 2 closing words?
You can.
Daryl Davis.
Daryl Davis. Okay.
I will just say Daryl, Daryl, I think. Davis.
Okay.
If you guys want to know why I'm optimistic about the ability to do this,
Okay.
Daryl Davis.
We will look him up. Okay. We're out of here. Goodbye,
Right.
cruel world.
Bye, cruel world. That sounds interesting.